Happy 4th of July weekend, everyone, and welcome back to Mom Minute. In the spirit of Independence Day, I thought I would answer this question from Kristen. She asks, how do you help your kids become more independent? Okay, now I'm gonna gear my answer to two parts, kind of a little bit for younger kids and then some for older kids. So the best way to teach your kids to be independent is by letting them be independent. Don't be the parent that's constantly hovering over your children. And I like to call them helicopter parents, the ones that are just kind of circling in orbit wherever their children are, never letting them out of their sight. You know, let your kids explore and let them roam. If you're at the park, sit back a little ways and at the picnic table and let the child go and play on the playground by themselves. They may fall, they may scratch their leg, they may bump their chin, but they're gonna be okay as long as they're safe. They're not gonna get really hurt. And what you're teaching them is that you trust them and that they're capable of taking care of themselves and being independent. Likewise, let them use their creativity at home. You don't always need to take your kid and put them in front of the TV or hand them an iPad or some other electronic to keep them busy. Kids are so easily entertained. You don't need lots of fancy toys to do it. Hand them a cardboard box and watch them play for an hour or two. It's amazing how creative kids can get when they don't have lots of other things to keep them busy. Don't be afraid to let them stay with other people besides yourself. I know this is really hard, especially for first-time parents. Everyone's really uber protective of their children, but the sooner you kind of cut those strings and figure out that they can stay with a babysitter and still be safe or in a daycare, the better. And it teaches your child that they can be independent and away from mom and dad and have that separation, and that mom and dad will still come back later and they can be together again. Another thing I would recommend is that you let your kids fail. I know it's really hard to do. Sometimes it's devastatingly heartbreaking to watch my kids fail. But I promise you that in the long run, it will be the best thing for them because the kids will learn the best from those mistakes. When those price tags are little, especially, instead of when the price tags are giant, like wrecking a car or something major. You want to just let them fail in little ways when it comes along naturally so that later you avoid some of those big mistakes. I would also recommend that you let your kids express themselves to some degree. Now, in your comfort zone is going to be a little bit different here, but if your child decides they want to dye their hair purple and it's not going to be a permanent tattoo or something really that's a big deal, then maybe let them. You know, a child can express themselves and their creativity through a lot of ways. You need to make sure you just pick your major battles, and when you can give, go ahead and give, because those kids need to stretch their wings and grow and explore a little bit. Also, include them in adult conversations. When they get a little bit older, this becomes really important because you need to start letting them know that they're also an semi-adult. I can remember going to my aunt and uncle's house when I was maybe 12 or 13, and they were having this pretty in-depth conversation about abortion, which seems like a pretty heavy topic for a 12 or 13-year-old. But my uncle turned to me at one point and said, "What's your opinion, Mindy?" And I was like, "What? I get to have an opinion?" Like, I was so blown away by the fact that an adult had even cared to ask what my opinion on the subject was that I promised myself as a parent I would always make sure that my kids were involved in adult conversations. Your kids are gonna know what those subjects are anyway, so listen to them and hear what they have to say and vocalize their opinions, and then you can bounce off of each other. And it's really, really fun when you have older teenagers to be able to share that experience with each other. The last thing I would highly recommend doing is teach your children to budget. Part of being independent is being able to provide for themselves financially. And if you're not teaching them that when they're little, they're not gonna understand how to do it when they're older. So in our house, our kids start on a budget when they're very tiny, even if it's just with like a little quarter or helping pay 10 cents towards a birthday present in kindergarten. We want them to understand the concept of money and that it costs money and that they have to earn money to buy the things they want, so that later on they'll understand that as well when they get older and have rent and a car and everything else to pay for. I hope you guys have found these tips helpful, and don't forget to have an amazing Independence weekend. Now, if you'd like to send me more questions, be sure to tweet me at The Mom's View, and we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.